And there we go. Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for showing back up like you do every Sunday, or at least when you need us. So I am clearly flying solo. Let me know real quick. Could you let me know if the sound is working all right because I'm having microphone issues in here. So I'm just curious if someone could just put in the chat real quick, like, can you hear me all right? I'm gonna wait to talk until good here. Cool. Thank you, Heather. So anyway, thanks, gang, for showing up. I don't know what the delay is on here either. I wonder. My wife is Christmas shopping and has to go about an hour and a half from our house away to get to like all the best stores. So Lubbock, Texas is the closest big town near us. And so she's cruising around getting Christmas stuff done on the weekend. So yeah, which sounds a little bit crazy. But anyway, so I am left here alone and I have an opening question. So I see questions. I see Ruth is in here with a question already, a couple questions. And I'm curious if, so I'd like to keep things positive, but what is a Christmas song, if you listen to Christmas music, that you could do without hearing for the rest of your life? That's I'm curious. On the front end here, what is a Christmas song that you could do without for the rest of your life? I'm just curious. I have a couple. I won't share mine out yet. I kind of want to see what other people have in here. But with that, look, gang, if this is your first time here, what we do here for the last 8 years, for 200 of this iteration of the show, there was a previous iteration also with guests, but 290 shows we have done where we show up on Sundays and try and help each other with our issues, whatever's going on this week in life or in school, to try and prepare. And as we know, this last couple weeks before that winter break or Christmas break can be the most tumultuous, some of the most tumultuous in the year. So just showing up for one another to try and help with that kind of thing really helps. So I'm going to jump right into questions. If you have questions, throw them in the chat. If you want to help somebody, you can throw that in the chat also. And I know there's tons of people that are connecting outside of this too. Maybe not tons, but there are people that connect outside of this world. Have the rest of the conversation in the Facebook group that we have. You can find the link for that in the description below. Have the conversation in Discord or wherever you want to connect, or if you're feeling confident enough in your own text messages to just try and help one another out. You don't go as far. My pastor always says, you don't go as far as your dream, you go as far as your team. Now, I think that team can be in real life or virtual, but you're creating this, another thing at church I used to be in said, you're creating this oikos, you're creating this circle of individuals that you count on, that you can draw energy from, that you can draw ideas from, and that you can give to as well. And so this is our small part in doing something like that. So the first question I have is Ruth Akers is asking, how do you deal with micromanaging from admin? I love this question. Ruth, I don't know if you're going to like my answer, but I don't do a lot of things I'm told to do. And so here's the thing. If I get an email that says the admin wants everyone to do X, a lot of times I don't do it. And because I find that this is my school, right? So this is me knowing my school, both the schools I was at. A lot of initiatives are never followed through on or fall by the wayside, or you put a lot of time, energy, and effort. So I've put a lot of time, energy, and effort into things that just never happened. We just didn't need them. It just vanished and no one ever talked about it again. It was what even ever happened to that idea? For that reason, after that happened enough times, it was they'll ask in an email. Maybe they'll send a follow-up email to everyone. Hey, we're not getting a good response on this, which just means a lot of people aren't doing it. I typically wait till that third email or the email that goes, Reynolds, you didn't do the thing. Do the thing. Okay, you got it. I'll do it. And that goes for everything. That goes for trainings. It goes for meetings. It goes for all kinds of stuff. And I'll tell you this, Ruth, I'm not saying this to just be a renegade, but my time is my most valuable resource. I have a mentor of mine that said, time is, when folks say like time is money, and he would say, time is this is so important. He would say, time is so much more valuable than money. And I'm going to show you why. And he said, who in here would love $1 million? Right. So, like, if you would just like, I'll give you $1 million. And he said, everyone's hands goes up all the time. Now, what if I said, if I give you $1 million, you only have a day left to live? Like, no one's taking that deal, because time is more important than money. Time is more important. It's a number one asset that we have. And so I don't want my time at school to be filled up with this micromanaged nonsense that, like, a lot of times, like I said, it's because it doesn't lead to something. Now, maybe you have really great administration and leadership in your school and you don't have that problem. But in my case, it was like having that problem. And then I just decided I wasn't going to do it because I have other things to get done. It's not because I'm being lazy. It's not because I just don't want to do it. It's not because, I mean, there's times I feel like that, but if something is important, I take care of business. And when I'm not doing that, I'm working on something else. I'm not just chilling, right? This isn't like, I don't need that level of stuff. And I feel like that's more about them and less about you. So that's my answer. I just don't do a lot of stuff. Let's see. Paris is asking, middle school science teacher, awesome. How do you grade group projects? I'm stumped on what to do if people aren't contributing. I love this. And don't want to punish the ones that are working on creating the prototype. So one of the ways I found around this was, one, there's this idea that, and this kind of works, is like having different kids responsible for different parts of the project. So, because there's this meme that is of The Hangover, and it has like I think there's 4 guys in The Hangover, and it's like, this one represents the kid that does everything in the project. This is the kid that kind of does stuff. This is the kid that did exactly 0. And this is the kid that just like looked like they were doing something of that sort. But it's a really great meme. And I find that that's basically the thing. There's someone who is locked and loaded because this is their jam, or because they really care, or because they really want the grade. There's a kid that doesn't do anything. And then there's 2 other kind of like middle of road students. What I want is for students to learn how to work in groups. So sometimes I have them delegate issues. So it's like each person's in charge of something different. And then a heavier percentage of an individual's grade comes from the thing they did. And then I want to see them, like, if someone's not towing the weight, those students need to speak to that. They need to get you, like, part of the thing of working in groups is being able to speak to someone who's terrible at what they do or is not doing something. And at least I want those students to come and speak to me. So say like, hey, John's not really doing the work. He's not showing up and doing anything. I know there's like, so in my school, there's a big deal. Snitching is a big deal, but I need kids that I just shift the thinking around it. I want you to advocate for yourself. I want you to advocate for what you need and for what you are getting and not getting. And we need to have those conversations and learn how to speak truth to those people in a respectful way that's going to motivate them and get them to do it. And then the last thing I do, Paris, and this is something I learned from a friend that I think is really a fun and interesting way to do this, is have kids, depending on how large your project is. So if my project went like a couple of weeks, I might do this once a week. If I only have it last a couple of days, I might have them do it every day. But kids they basically grade each other. So I say, if I give your group 100 points, and would you give 25% to each person that's here? Would you give 50 to yourself and have them divvy up the rest? Would you give yourself 100% of the credit because you did all the work? So kids anonymously grade themselves and each other on how they would divvy up those points. And that starts giving me a real sense of where people are, right? And I find kids are mostly truthful on this. Even the kid that doesn't do anything, they don't typically give themselves a 0, but they won't give themselves all the points. And that helps me to really have a sense too, because sometimes it's too many people to be mindful of at once. And you know how it goes. As soon as you walk over to a group, everyone is all of a sudden, oh, we're working together, great, and paying attention and doing a great job. It's like, bro, you're not. You guys, like, there's one person working, and now you just woke up. And how can I tell? Because you got lines on your face. So I found that that's been the best way. Okay, so my question was, what is a song that a Christmas song you could do without for the rest of your life? And so I have Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer. Lopez, I told my kids the other day, my grandma, this is kind of funny, kind of dark, not funny, but my grandmother passed away on Christmas Eve. And that's when the grandma got run over by a reindeer. And I said, that song was never not as funny to me as when my grandmother passed away early Christmas Eve morning several years ago. I guess it's about 4 years ago now. And yeah, it just like wasn't funny anymore. I was like, man, this song really took a turn for the worst. I don't know if it was funny before that, but it was definitely something that I could do without. KP said the Chipmunk Christmas song. That's a great one. I love it. So, yeah, actually, I don't hear that come on the radio ever. So KP is also asking, hi, CJ, any advice for building student-to-student relationships? My 10th graders only want to talk to classmates they already know. This is such a great question. And I'd say this, KP, I'm noticing this. And if anyone's watching this, I don't mean to hurt anyone's feelings, but I have noticed in any number of schools that I go to. So right now, do I want to talk about this? I won't talk about that example, but I will talk about last year I was working pretty exclusively with a particular school here in New Mexico. And I found that some teachers are just so reluctant to like even say hello. Like you're the only two people walking down the hallway and you get to one another and I go, hi. And they're just like, either don't say anything. I caught them by surprise. Like, bro, you didn't know I was going to say hello. We're like, we just walked 100 feet towards one another. Finally got to one another. We're just not going to say anything. Two ships passing in the night or whatever that is. It is. I think adults can be just as bad at doing this. And I'll tell you this. We've visited, I don't know how many, probably 8 different churches here in New Mexico in the last year. And I can't find a church I like. But a large part of that is like no one talks to you. You just walk in. I'm like, y'all know, like there ain't like 100 new people showing up here all the time. And because it's such a small town, you think someone new shows up, you'd want to like hold on to them. But just you show up, no one says anything to you, try and start a conversation with people. They're all weird, and then you just leave. So I for kids, I think this is a great skill. That's why I'm bringing up my own experience because it's a great life skill. One of the ways I get kids to connect is I connect with students. When I find out that someone likes, I don't know, they're super into what's a hot show right now, like murder drones right now, right? If you're into murder drones and I hear you talking about that, I will look up murder drones. I find out what it is, make sure that's not really about some kind of satanic cult is what it sounds like anyway. And I will talk to you about it. If I find out someone else is interested in that, and this might be someone you don't really know, I'm talking to you, me and Jason are having a conversation about murder drones. I'm like, oh, you know what? Yo, Brad, come here real quick, bro. Yo, you're not even going to believe what Jason's into. Murder drones. What? Yo. And then they start vibing on this thing. It's about me keeping my radar up for who's interested in what, and then bringing that connection in. Another way that I build connection, this is a little bit different. This is more to like let kids be seen, but it can still work the same way. And slowly because I've seen it slowly build connections, is I might have a kid like Akil who's a senior and is very cool. I might have, I had a student named Business Casual, and Business Casual, I don't even remember his real name because we just call him Business Casual because he didn't have wrestling shoes and he showed up to wrestling practice with sweatpants on and dress shoes. So Business Casual. Business Casual was a very quiet freshman that was getting a lot of crap from other freshmen. He's his own kind of dude, wonderful kid, but like his own kind of dude. And that got him a lot of attention, that got him made fun of. So I used to tell Akil and his homies, Like, yo, come here. This is my dude, business casual over here. If you see him in the hallway, all I want you to do is say what's up to him. You don't have to talk to him. You don't have to invite him to eat lunch with it. You don't have to hang out outside of school or play video games together. It's like, just say what's up. And you can see the difference in kids when they are known. It took from someone from thinking they're invisible to now knowing they're visible. That you're getting crap from the freshmen who are immature anyway, but these older dudes that you literally look up to that are cool, that are established, that are comfortable in how they move and who they talk to are just walking down the hallway and being like, yo, Biz, what up? And that's it. Then they just keep moving. And it's like, what the hell's happening here? And I saw the change in business casual that year. And then for the rest of his high school career, like he became the guy that did that for other students eventually as well. And that is just, you're looking for that. So even if kids are new to your class, it's you intentionally getting to know them and then you helping them get paired up. Don't just leave it up to kids and their own devices. Like, help kids out to do that sort of thing. Next question, Gian. What's up, my guy? Were your classes semesterized or full year? So both. Any suggestions for those of us who will get completely new batch of students in January? So initially, my hip hop class, which was an elective, was by trimester. Then they made it half year, which was way harder because then I had to take something that I had dialed in for this many weeks and make it a little bit longer. And then they turned it to whole year, which was so dumb. And it was, I'm telling you, it was pure laziness because they just didn't want to schedule the other things out. I enjoy that. And here's why. Because if kids are good, so I don't know how many semesters you have, but if it's like just 2 a year, it allows me to try stuff in the beginning of the year. I look at that as a trial. So I have those new kids, so I have new energy, so I have a sense that I can try things and fail and it's okay. And then in the winter, I'm going to try all that stuff again. And now I know what worked, what didn't work, how I would do something a little bit differently. So I look at it as a plus. And like this group came to the first show of the night. Now this new group is coming in and it's like, all right, I've tried some material. I've tried whether some jokes or some songs. Like, how am I going to do this next show? And I like to think about the year also, right? So for my hip hop class, we would do tons of it was inside, right? Like in the winter, I'd have DJs come in and stuff like that. In the spring, could I take a class trip? Could I do a couple of classes outside, like some activities outside? So I'm leaning into those seasons to be able to do some of that stuff as well. And then that earlier time of the year, I'm flipping that. So I'm doing some of that outside stuff in the beginning. And then when it gets cold out, I am not doing that as much. So I try and lean into that. And I actually really enjoy that portion of things because it does give me new kids. It does give me new energy. It does give me new life in my classroom. And I find that the faster I've gotten at building relationships, it's like you're just building relationships like nothing anyway. And that really the core. So I'll tell you this real quick, and then I'm going to move on to the next question. Here's a funny thing that I'm doing right now. My daughter signed up to be part of the stage crew for her new school's play. She's trying to get incorporated in something and meet people. She signs up to do the play. So then they need servers because it's going to be a dinner theater. So my son signs up to be a server, which is, if anyone's ever met my son, I mean, like hand-eye coordination, not always the best. And he's also super, super nice. Like I always say, my son's like Elf. I am envisioning these two. So I go to watch Marley at practice one day, or no, I got a phone call from the superintendent and they were like, hey, you're on YouTube and have like a decent voice. Like, would you be this one little part? We just need you to read this one little line. You don't even have to go on stage in the play. Sure. I go to practice that day. I read it. They're like, oh my gosh, can you do this next? You know how schools are. I got like 4 more things piled on me. Now I'm in the play. right? Both of my children are not actually physically like on stage in the play, right? They are not acting, but their dad is. So now I'm in the play. So now I have to keep going to all these practices. And you know what I'm doing while I'm there? I'm just like talking to kids. And you just find out, like, you just ask little questions because you realize most adults don't talk to kids like this. And then you're just asking them things about themselves and asking further knowledge. And then the next time you see them, like following up with stuff. And when you get good at doing that, then having those new students in that new semester goes a lot better. Lopez says that time that we have on earth is such a gift. I believe it, man. Amen. Sherry is asking, I have a teacher in my school who is a first-year teacher, and he has a class that will not listen to him. Which of your videos would be best for me to share? So there are a couple. So Sherry, I have a classroom management playlist that is pretty comprehensive. I would also suggest I can't pull up links right now, but there's one of me like holding my ears and it's all the thumbnails, all these other kids yelling. I would consider that. And I would consider there's a video I have on, do I yell at my students? I used to get asked that a lot because people were just like, you're so nice. You probably like never yell at your kids. Like, wrong. But it's strategic, right? The difference there, what I talk about in the video is like, it's not me just losing it. And then there's a video on quote unquote bad kids. What do you do about bad kids? I think I would start there. Yeah. And Sherry, look, this is one of those things that you could share the show with them and they could come on and ask questions too, and just, or go in the Facebook group and share something as well. And that would probably help them just as much because then they're getting like some of that answers in real time. But thanks so much for sharing stuff. That's awesome. Tristan is the first time I ever heard, probably get this before. I don't know, I'm going full ADD on this, but Tristan, the only time I ever heard that name was in Legends of the Fall, which was one of my favorite movies when I was younger. And then I met a kid with that name. I was like, yo, your mom's got to be a fan. And he was like, yeah, you true. So Tristan is asking, how do you deal with bad admin, especially when you need them to like you for things like performance reviews? So there's a really interesting, I won't say I love it, but it's an interesting take. There's a video, Tristan, on YouTube. If you type in Jocko Willink and like bad boss, he talks about his view of like when he's had poor leadership, this Jocko Willink was a Navy SEAL, and he talks about when you had bad leadership in the Navy SEALs, like it leads to people getting killed or really hurt or whatever, and how he views that. It's an interesting take on it. For me, I would say that I've had some really bad leadership. What I do is have to get very clear on why I'm there. I am not there for them to like me. I'm not there for them to not like me either. I'm not there for them at all. I'm there with them. We are a team. And if I feel like I cannot be a team member with them, like if I know I've tried everything, so I've had a number of terrible principals in my life. I just, I find my team. I'll tell you what I don't do first is I don't start arguments. I don't talk trash. I'm not interested, like as little as possible, unless it's like I really have to vent something or I'm actively trying to solve something and I'm dealing with bad leadership. So I'm trying to figure it out with other people. That's different to me. First of all, I make sure I ask a lot of questions, and this can be aggravating, and I'm not doing it to be aggravating, but there have been times when leadership will make a decision. We're in a meeting. They go, does anyone have any questions? And it's one of those meetings where, everyone's going to be mumbling afterwards. Like everybody hates it, but they don't have the guts to raise their hand. So I had my last couple of years of teaching, a really bad principal. My buddy, Bizzuto, and I, Mr. Bizzuto, would just raise our hand and ask questions, right? And not to catch someone, not to make them look dumb. I think that's how it was perceived. But it was really, I'm trying to clarify the value in what you're asking us to do, because it doesn't seem like it's valuable, or it doesn't seem like it's a good move, or it's a good idea, or it's a good use of time. And so I'm just curious about the value that you see in this. So it's things like that that I make sure I do. The other thing is, I just try not to, I keep my head down and focus on my students. I focus on my class. I focus on my teaching ability. I focus on helping kids find success. And so what I also find is that if someone isn't likable, they're not kind, they're mean, they micromanage, they're dismissive, they're indifferent, they forget who I am. They don't even know my friggin' name half the time, right? I find that those sorts of things I have to separate myself from and help make them like not bother me, because I need to focus on kids. And the kids are the main reason I'm here. And I want partners to help me do the work I have to do. But if I have to go it alone, or go with like a minimum crew of like, these are the teachers, my true homies that I really get down with, then I'll do it. That's the bottom line. And then for my performance reviews, I think I have a video about this, but it's like, I will, especially if I know someone sucks, I will give them what I want them to look at ahead of time. Hey, I'm so glad you're coming in to do a review. Here's what we're focusing on this week. And if it's an impromptu, I try and be able to do this as well. So like, if someone just shows up, hey, this is what we're focusing on this week. I'm really curious what you think about this, so that they're not just like in there pulling from whatever they want to pull from. I'm giving them focus. Now, they don't always do what I ask them to do, but, and that certainly doesn't always show up in my review, but at least gives them some focus. Then I initiate the follow-up. I go in the next day or at the end of the school day. Hey, do you have 5 seconds or 30 seconds or 5 minutes? I'm just curious what you thought about that today. Like, I'm going to finish up with it tomorrow. Any tips, tricks, advice that you would give? So what I'm looking for here is, I am almost forcing the partnership a bit. Taking this thing that you could lord over me, which is my review, and maybe I don't get my job back, which I don't think is going to happen because there's a teacher shortage, and like, who has time to get rid of, or who has the ability to get rid of teachers? But here's what I'm looking for. It also makes me an active participant in my own review process. And I have found great success in that model. And then the other thing is, I think, yeah, and then I just think it's like, protect yourself. It's protect your mindset. It's protect your, like, it's not, I try to even have fun with it. So I had a principal one time that used to ignore me when they walked down the hallway. I have no idea. To this day, I don't know what they had a problem with me for. They would say hi to my homie that was standing next to me in the hallway all the time, another teacher, Mr. Hasty, and would ignore me. So every morning, but Hasty didn't even say good morning. I would say good morning. The principal would walk by, say hi to Hasty, and keep going. And so I used to just do sonic boom hellos then, or write it on signs, or like a little bit of jackassery, but like not too much. Have fun with it a little bit if you can. So that it's some combination of those things. All right. My wife would be telling me I'm taking too long. I'm trying not to. I apologize. Zamina is asking, thank you for all of your awesome advice. You can call me Mimi. Okay, awesome. So first of all, I would like to say thank you. Anyone that shows up, anyone that says thanks, like, look, I'm sitting in a room. My kids aren't even home right now. My kids just went to the park or something like that. And so I'm sitting at home alone, and I am making this video. So I appreciate you sending along the love and the kindness. Thank you. The question is, what are ways you can help students retain information for a long period of time? So for example, next year. I find that if you can connect it to something they care about, even the more absurd, the better. That's the stuff they remember. So I guess this isn't really a curse, but there's dumb ways. Now I teach 9th grade, and I know who I'm teaching. So some of y'all aren't going to get away with this. That's fine. Think of your own way. But I remember there are students that would come to me that could still remember like some of the Greek gods that we fought. I'm talking about kids that like went through college and came back to visit. And they're like, yo, Reynolds, when I was in college, we had to read the Odyssey again. And I never forgot when you taught us how to remember that Aeolus was the god of wind, because Aeolus sounds like Aeolus, and that's where farts come from. And it was like, they're like, and I just, that's stuck in my brain. When I teach my son has very poor working memory. It's like a diagnosis we got from a neurologist. I have to think of like the most absurd thing for him to connect things. So he's in Bible class and they're studying the Talmud, I believe is how you pronounce it, which is a comment. So the Talmud is broken into two pieces. It's like so part of it is like the commentary on the Torah and then the commentary on the commentary. And he's like, what does that even mean? And I'm like, yo, it's like when you play Fortnite and Laserbeam makes a video that tells you about, like, breaks down the new Fortnite season. But then somebody else will make a video based on Laserbeam's video on what Laserbeam was trying to break down for y'all. And that, like, so it's like sometimes it's absurd, sometimes stuff no one else is even going to understand, but it's that like the absurdity. And then it's also helping kids to learn how they learn. I suggest having your students take some sort of like quick assessment. There's tons of these online that help them to know how they learn. So are they visual? Are they kinesthetic? Do they learn through creating projects or by writing papers or rote memorization? Maybe that is the best form for some kids. But it's, for my own children, Brody is a lot of drawing pictures so he can remember, making absurd connections. So, and some of them I won't even go into here because they're so ridiculous. You'd be like, Reynolds, you're a teacher. It's the crazier the connection. And I remember, and I find that song helps a lot too. I don't use song very much in high school because the kids just think it's corny. But when I think back, I mean, my friend Alex, so if y'all have ever looked up for math teachers, Alex Kajatani is a buddy of mine, and he was California State Principal of the Year. He's known as the Rapid Mathematician, and he created like hip hop songs for kids to remember all kinds of mathematic principles that they needed to remember. I remember a handful of the first presidents, because in school we did some play one time. I don't even remember what it was called, but it had a song in it that helped us remember the presidents. I think things like that work as well. But it's the other thing here that you want to remember, Mimi, is that once you find something, especially for a particular student that was struggling, you got to double down on that. It's the thing you're going to do all the time, or pull from, or remember that you have that. So don't one off it. It's like when I found out that Gian, who had the most ADHD I've ever seen in a student, got super quiet and focused when I gave him Lego to play with in class to build something out of. Every friggin' project from then on had a Lego component. Every single one. I didn't try and recreate the wheel. I found the thing that helped him to succeed. And me and my homie, Mr. Fines, that's what we did that year. So yeah. Next question. Hello, D-Rom. You were on here. You're probably not even on here anymore. D-Rom is Marley's friend on the internet, and I don't know why you're calling me dad, but you're wonderful, and I hope you're having a great day. Logan is asking, what's up, Logan? Is it okay to be a student? Is it okay to, this might be written slightly wrong. Is it okay to be a student a pair of basketball shoes? In conversation, he mentioned that he wanted to join the team, but doesn't have shoes to play. I've only seen him wear a single pair of shoes. I would say yes. Oh, okay, so you corrected it in the next thing. I think the way you do this is based on the kid. So I had a buddy that I taught with that he was such a unique case. He was like, kind of reminded me of like Will Smith in Bad Boys. He was independently wealthy. And then once he like made his fortune, he decided he always wanted to teach. So he had the most baller classroom I've ever seen. I mean, like baller classroom. And it's because he just had money and because he just taught because he loved it and wanted to do it. And so it was a remarkable situation. Anyway, there was a student that we worked with that year who was very poor, lived in a trailer in the woods, not in a trailer park, like a trailer in the woods oftentimes didn't have heat. If they did, it was a kerosene heater in the middle, like that, like poor student. And that student had to wear the same stuff to school all the time. The prom was coming and he didn't have anything to wear. So this dude found out his measurements some way, somehow, went and bought a suit, they worked on the play together, put it in a trash bag in the costume area. And he was like, listen, I think you should go to the prom, and like that girl wants to go with you. So like, let's just go down the costume room and see if we can find something. And then ta-da, they find this suit and it fits him perfectly. They iron it. He goes to the prom and it's a hit. I have also had students that have been like, I want to go for a job interview, but I don't have black pants and I can't get a job at McDonald's without black pants. Well, let's go. Like now look, this is me, and I don't condone just handing cash over to kids, but I've given kids money to go do stuff. I've met kids at Old Navy and taken them shopping. I've gotten I found out one girl one time was homeless and then was living in foster care. So me and my staff, like we coordinated, we all bought Christmas presents and like gave them to her before she left for winter break, and then went home. So she had something under the tree, that kind of stuff. I don't see a problem with it. But what I want to do, why I'm giving you all these different options, is I want to preserve someone's dignity. Some kids are going to have a real hard time with it, what they feel is a handout. And what I want them to understand, even when I bought like the young man pants, it was, bro, I'm just giving you, like, I give you every day. You don't have a problem when I'm showing up and I spend my whole weekend working on a project, working on helping you build your mind, helping you build who you are as your core as a person, right? When I challenge you and we have these long talks, you never worry about that. And time's my most precious resource. My money's not. Like, I'd give you $40, you can go buy pants, no problem. Like, just go do it. And so that, like, don't have a problem with this and not have a problem with everything else. I've been pouring into you for years. Or it's letting kids know, like, no, let me do this for you because I want it. I want it on your heart that I did it, because I want you to look for someone to what do they say? Like return the blessing to. There's a term for it. And there was a movie with, I don't know, people in it before. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like, do this for someone else, right? Like, but I want you to, once it's weighing on your heart, I know you have a greater chance of doing it for someone else. So let me do this for you and give you this gift so that you can give the gift to someone else. And so I don't think there's an issue with that at all. I've bought kids all kinds of stuff. I know tons of people I've worked with even that have just gotten kids all kinds of things over the years. Let's see. This is when I'm doing it by myself and my wife's not here to just say, okay, next question, and then reads it. What if my wife might be watching right now? I hope you're out there. Hope you're out there, wife, as you're shopping. All right. Victoria Rucker is asking, how would you sprinkle a little magic into AP classes? I have a lot of high achieving students who feel maybe a lot of stress around grades and performance. This is a wonderful idea. Sometimes sprinkling magic isn't just about the lesson. It's not about having something that's more fun, especially I found even in honors classes, kids are like, strip the fluff, give me the meat, let me know what to learn, I'll learn it. And because they're just good at that, right? They're good at like, say it, I'll retain it, and then I'll regurgitate it on the test. Thing in an AP class, especially because you're probably dealing with some like a little bit older kids, I would think about what are the conversations that we're having in there? How are these students viewing their lives? What do they want to do? Why do they want to do it with their life? What do they know that they don't want to do? How do we learn how to have conversations? How to actively listen? Like, so having some deeper portions of class where we're not just diving, not necessarily just like, it's not, everything's not for a grade. We're learning how to become people that are inquisitive, that wonder. And this is something that's been completely stripped away in large part, especially from secondary education, is this idea of wonder and curiosity. And there's so much more apathy and kids are tired and they don't want to do this anymore. And do we have to do this? And why are we having this conversation if it's not worth a grade? But just learning how to kick it with students, I think that if I think back, and maybe you've had a similar experience, Victoria, when I started having friends that were reading books and would show up and we'd share ideas, stay up late and have conversations, and then I'd want to learn more about something. I'm trying to instill just a bit of that. The magic in that is the curiosity and the wonder and the wanting to learn and the thinking deeper and getting kids into that and having them think about themselves and really question themselves and who they are. This is an age, one of the reasons I love ninth grade is you're starting to figure out who you are, that you're not wearing the clothes that your mom picked out for you or listening to your parents' music, and sometimes that is like you're going to rail against it because you're going to like have just shave half your head and put purple polka dots on it and pierce your septum. I don't know, but you're experimenting with that. And I want to give kids a space to have some of those intellectual curiosities happen in class as well. The other way you could do it is, I really think there's so much value in having guests speak to your class or going on class trips that are meaningful. So when you're learning something, where can we go that we can interact with someone that maybe it's not like exactly on point, but there's a theme that we talked about that I want to explore a little bit more, or an activity. So like where do I live and where can I go and who can I connect with that would be willing to have these conversations with my students or to show them something or something like that. That's probably what I would I would dial into that too, because then that's not even any more planning on you. It's so easy. And it's an untapped resource that most teachers don't do, is having guests. And the best way to do that, unless they already do that sort of thing, the best way to do that is through Instagram DMs, is messaging people on Instagram, not Twitter, not email, not even Facebook. It is because Instagram and definitely not TikTok. TikTok messages suck. LinkedIn can work as well, but I find that it is on Instagram, sending a DM. And if you're not sure exactly what to say, there's like a word count that you have to have, write something up and put it in ChatGPT and tell them that I need an Instagram DM that says basically this, and this is what my goal is. And then it'll write it up for you. Heather Clarkson is saying, I'm so thankful. I'm so glad to finally be catching you live last year. You really helped me get through a bunch of tough times with Teacher Talk. You and this community are the best. Thank you very much, Heather. I really, really appreciate that. And if anyone else says anything kind and I just don't see it, I apologize. I'm looking for questions because I'm just trying to make sure that I get through those. But yeah, pay it forward, Logan. That was the term I was looking for earlier. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, here we go. Classroom management guy is asking, YouTube question here. Do you do your own thumbnails, and what is your click-through rate? I can't get mine above 3%, and I was wondering if you have any tips that work for you. So, I do my own thumbnails, yes. I used to use a PicMonkey because it was cheap. Now I use Canva like most other people. Click-through rate, I don't know off the top of my head. I do an analysis every month where my wife and I go deep dive into the analytics and see kind of where we're at. With regards to what works best, I think it's going back and looking at what are your videos that people have liked the most. So for me, I'm seeing that there's a lot of videos I'd like to make that I think would be fun to make, but they're just not as well received, right? So and look, this is a business too, right? I'm trying to live off of this. So I have to do what folks are looking for. It's basically like, I don't want to have a store and sell products that no one buys. I want to buy what people want to buy. So I find that every time I do something around classroom management, it does better than anything else I do. It's classroom tours and classroom management. You can only do classroom tour like once a year. But, and I don't currently have a classroom, so I can't do those anyway. But it is I think it's finding that niche. What is the thing? So going to your most popular videos, seeing what they are, not having any feelings about that, like they are what they are, and then how can I continue to make something that's going to be of value for like different types of people, or hone in on something maybe no one else has thought of before. But to me, it's more about consistency. It's every week at the same time on the same days trying to get stuff out. And that can be very hard. Sometimes I'm better than I am at others, but it's really playing that algorithm game as well, and doing that to try and help you get there. Yeah. So cool. I think that's all my questions. If you have another question before I'm done talking, I will gladly answer it. This is the worst. I hear this chair. It's the worst. But I am curious. If you're, I'm not curious. If you're, I'm going to keep saying this. I'm going to keep saying this because one, I want to help as many teachers as possible in the world have the best year ever. If your school needs a speaker, if your district needs a speaker, if your friend said their school needs a speaker, if you know that there's a school that you think I should reach out to that thinks that they need a speaker, let me know. I'm gonna at the end of the show, I'm gonna throw a QR code up here on the thing. All you gotta do is scan it, and it will take you to all of my resources for that. You don't do anything for it; it just shows up, and you get like stuff. I want to speak at your school. It's also because look, gang, this is my bread and butter. I'm trying to make a living here, and is not easy. This is the super dry season of the world where we are entering into Christmas. People aren't really thinking about education, but coming back, I want to be ready to help people as I can. So please reach out. Let me know if I can help you out in any way, because I want you to have the best year you possibly can. So that is. Thank you, Heather. I appreciate that. That's it. I think we're done. So, gang, have a great week. I will be back next week with episode 291. Can't believe, man, we're coming up on episode 300. And then remember, just brief reminder: after the new year, we are going to shift the platform a little bit, right? So it's still going to be on YouTube, but we're doing things a little bit different too. So I'll keep you up on that too. But that's it, gang. I will see you next week. Am I ready to transfer out of this? No, because I don't have my stuff pulled up. But here it is. Here's that QR code if you need a speaker. We'll see you next week, gang. Peace. Oh, there I am again because I didn't end the stream.